What's the weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? One of the first times I met my husband's family, I was over at their house and husband gestured for me to sit down and be comfortable. Their house was really very cluttered, not quite hoarder cluttered, but close. They had a couple of couches facing each other and then some other chairs. Not knowing the rules, I sat on one of the couches, which had a lot of stuffed teddy bears on it. OMG, you would think I had sat down on live bears. There were probably 20 to 30 small medium stuffed bears on this couch. Husband's mother and twin brother both visibly reacted, as if I had damaged the bears. Not antique bears either. That was when I was told that the couch was for the bears, and only for the bears, and that no one was allowed to sit on the bears' couch. Just the bears. The bears all had little beaded necklaces with their names on them to tell them apart, because they were all the same brand and style. So when my dad died, my mom remarried, and had 2 kids. I was moved into the basement, unfinished basement. I didn't think anything of it. Since I was 10, I had a sheet blocking my area from the laundry area. It had bare concrete walls, wood beams and piping across the ceiling and cement flooring. Used a heater and dehumidifier cause it was cold and humid. When I used the heater, my parents would make my sheeted area around my bed, so it would heat up the space quicker. Parents didn't allow any of my friends over, and my brother and sister weren't allowed in my room. Distant family members also never stayed over, and when we had family gathering, I was told to go into the guest room instead of my room. While they were there, I thought cool. I have a huge room and no one can mess it up. My family would go on vacations yearly without me from when I was 12 till I was 18. I was the dog and house watcher. During one of those vacations, when I was 17, I invited a friend come over. They pointed out how effed up it was that there were bedrooms fully furnished with TVs for my brother and sister, a guest room fully furnished as well with a TV, and how I was in the basement with sheets for walls and bathroom mats on the floor. I completely dismissed it cause it was normal to me. It wasn't till I was 20 that I found out that the family trips that I didn't go on were paid for with money that I was getting from my dad passing away. I'm sure I got some of the money in food and clothes and whatever I needed, but it's got me pretty effed up cause my brother and sister don't have any memory of it, and when I talk about it, they always back my parents by saying we were raised right and I opted out of vacations. They also thought the guest room was my room. At dawn, I just wanted to thank everyone for being so kind and welcoming with your thoughts. There is a lot, and this whole day has been way more emotional than I could have ever expected. I'm trying my best to get back to everyone, and if I miss you, it was an honest mistake. Again, thank you everyone, you all deserve the world. Also, if any of you need someone to talk to, my door is always open. I was maybe 12 and visiting a friend who lived deep in the woods for the first time. They had 2 outdoor dogs, and one got free and ran over and attacked the other. The dog that got bit was quite a bit smaller and was definitely injured. My friend's dad came out with a pistol and shot both dogs. It changed my life forever. I was raised in a house where dogs are family. My friend and his family didn't seem fazed at all. This happened around 1994. I grew up in an extremely rural town, so when I say my friend lived deep in the woods, I'm talking like they were completely off the grid backwoods. One of the dogs was my friend's and the other was his sister's. They were chained up outside 24/7 and just not treated as pets at all. I believe the logic behind the shooting was that the sister's dog was too injured to recover, and my friend's dog had killed his sister's dog, so it was only fair to shoot them both. About 30 minutes after the whole thing happened, we all ate dinner together like nothing happened. My parents picked me up shortly after, and I cried the entire way home. We only hung out at my house after that. During the summers, when the college dorms closed, I'd go stay with a friend and his family a few states over. Spent a lot of time listening to his nice old dad talk about his interests, like the history of every single tree on the entire property, because it seemed like the least I could do to thank him for letting me crash in his house and eat his food. Eventually my friend got a dog, which was allowed to roam freely around the countryside because his dad insisted that was normal. She wasn't spayed, also because his dad insisted that was normal, so she wound up having puppies, just 2. So my friend kept them, they grew up, and now he had a small pack of dogs roaming the area and coming back to the garage to eat. I forget the details, but one day the dogs came home covered in chicken feathers or blood, some obvious signs that they'd been eating someone's farm animals. So that nice old dad brought out a gun and shot all 3 dogs dead, acting like it's a perfectly normal and unavoidable part of dog ownership. My friend was really torn up, obviously, but was expected to act like it was all perfectly normal. I don't exactly think of his father in the same way anymore. To be clear, this family did not live on a farm. It was a nice house in a rural area with a lot of land between it and the next house, but was absolutely not a farm and had no outbuildings or livestock that needed protecting. So it was not necessary to let the dogs roam loose Hank the Cowdog style. When I was younger I was best friends with 2 brothers from Jamaica. One of the days they asked me to stay over so we could play some Atari. After we finished playing outside, we came home 12 minutes after their curfew, so their dad, who was extremely calm, told us to sit in the living room. I sat in there with my 2 friends and they were super quiet, which was a bit weird, until their dad walked in with a belt and beat the living shit out of them. I sh myself, not literally, because I thought I was in for a beating, but he didn't hit me, which was a huge relief. After the beating their dad, asked if I would like some carrot juice, while my friends just went back to normal and set up their Atari like nothing happened. I was sat on the sofa wondering what the F just went on. Was sleeping over at a friend's house in 6th grade. 3 PM we show up to her house after school. We walked into her apartment to find her mom half dressed, passed out drunk, and sprawled out with her head on the floor. One arm twisted weirdly so it somehow was resting on the coffee table, and her legs on the couch. TV was on and blaring. Didn't even notice our arrival. I had zero experience with this kind of thing, and although I could tell my friend was embarrassed, I didn't understand the full implications or really what was happening. I pretty much just thought it was an odd place for a nap, which is how I explained it to my parents later. When I commented on how odd it was to be napping there instead of in bed, I might have even asked them if they would let me sleep on the couch and watch TV too. Bless my parents for immediately understanding the situation, but not making a scene, and not spoiling my naivete or ever embarrassing my friend in any way. My family is pretty good at being subtle, for better or worse. However, that was absolutely the last time I stayed at her house. All sleepovers with that particular friend were at my house from then on, but it was a casual coincidence from my POV. I didn't even notice that subtle change for a couple years. Looking back, I think my friend really appreciated it though. We are still friends, and she has kids of her own, and she's doing great, is a doctor, but her mom still has the same alcohol struggles, and is very in your face about it even now as she was then. Here's an I was that family story. My godmother, who was practically an aunt, ran a fairly successful daycare out of her home in the 90s. She was a first-generation immigrant to the US, whose parents came to the New England area from Ireland. My 2 younger brothers and I spent a lot of time at her home, and I was generally the oldest child there. When I was about 8 years old, she started to have me make her favorite drink, gin and tonic. She drank these all day while running her home daycare. At age 8 I knew how to mix cocktails, that forks were better for stirring than spoons, and that large plastic bottles of gin were cheap and low quality. This went on for years, on pretty much a daily basis, until my family moved out west. My godmother kept her daycare running until she died. I'm sure of health problems relating to alcohol. I was 15 when she passed, and I'm in my 30s now. I honestly went most of my life thinking nothing of it, until I became a father a couple of years ago, at which point I was like, how the F did anyone let her have a daycare? Side note, I drink but would consider myself an average drinker, if not below average. With that being said, I could never stomach the thought of gin, and didn't try gin until I was 30. This was because I once licked my finger early in my daycare bartending career, after a couple of drops of gin splashed on my hand as I was pouring. That plastic half-gallon quality gin was the worst thing I'd ever had in my life, and I had no idea how my godmother liked it so much. Complete ruined my taste for gin. .8